Hello, folks. How we doing? It's Conroy Talks, and it's another episode. This time we're doing Premier League transfers. I'm delighted to be joined by Gav from LFC Daytrippers. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure for your company, Gav, and thanks for coming along. I really appreciate it, mate. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. It's a nice break from all the other stuff I do to come on and just have a random chat with you about Premier League transfers and go through all the clubs and the players and stuff like that. So I'm delighted to be here, and I know I don't have to edit this afterwards, Conroy. I'm being honest with you, so I'm delighted.
I was thinking about that earlier because I was checking my mic and I was like, just remember after because I watched you last night as well, and I was like, now because I spoke to you after the episodes, I actually remember. I'm like, Gav's got to go and edit that now. So I'm thinking if it finishes at 11:30 last night, I'm like, he'll be editing that till about 12:30. So you've got into my head now, Gav. I remember.
Yeah, look, I'm at the stage now where editing, you kind of do it with your eyes closed now. You know, you're on autopilot, but you're opening up. This is very boring, but you're adjusting all the stuff on YouTube, and your artwork has to be adjusted to a different size for iTunes and all sorts of stuff, and get it on the website, and then edit the sound, and there's loads of things to do. But I think I have it down to about 25 minutes now. Once everybody behaves themselves and doesn't say anything ridiculous, I have it down to about 25 minutes. So it's not too bad. But when you're doing it every night of the week, it's nice to have a break where I can just do a show and literally get off this and turn on the TV and not worry about it.
Of course, mate. Get a few cans if you want as well. It's more the merrier in that sense. But that's up to you. That's up to you. I've just got the water today because I'm still.
I'm on tea and a diluted orange drink. I'm only allowed to have cans once a week, and I'm saving it now for Wednesday nights because Jamie said I'm allowed to get really upset on his show on Wednesday. So it's all good. The choice of cup wasn't great, but we got with it.
No, that looks good. You're pulling it off, mate. You're pulling it off. Shout out to Chris in the comments. Chris Brack in all the comments. Cheers for listening, folks.
Hi, Chris.
So just on that, I was going to put this in the later agenda. Grizz mentioned it in a tweet earlier, so I thought, you know what, we'll just kick off with that before we talk about other teams. It's no bias at all from me, but Mr. Andrew Robertson signed a new long-term deal, and it is a long-term deal. It's 2026, which, see, to be honest, nowadays, sometimes contracts are maybe not worth the paper they're written on, but this one, to me, I think from both parties, it does seem to be a great fit. So what's your thought on that, Gav? Were you buzzing with that news earlier?
Delighted. You know, there's not many players at Liverpool that would sign a new deal, and I wouldn't be delighted simply because of what they've given us to us over the last 3 to 4 years. Andy Robertson arrived at the club in 2017, I think, and you know, he's probably the benchmark he's probably the benchmark for blooding a player in, as people like to say when it comes to Jurgen Klopp, because he makes his debut against Palace, I think, at Anfield, and he's really, really good. And then he's kind of in and out, and there's nothing kind of regular with him. And then he just arrives, you know, and he's been absolutely top drawer. Now, I mean this, top drawer. You know, you can count on one hand in the last 4 years now he's at the club. You can count on one hand the amount of bad games he's had, or even bad halves he's had, you know, or bad 10 minutes he's had.
Yeah, I think the only one, sorry to interrupt, is, see, we're talking about Traore later on the list. That is the only one that sticks out in my mind is, I mean, Traore was his kryptonite for that season. Sorry, on you go, Gav. It was just I remember the Molyneux game,
Yeah, and do you know what? I'm sure if Robertson come up against Traore again, he'd have learned from it, you know, the sort of way, because he's really good at that. But he's a brilliant player, and not just because the quality he has. We're talking about Simicast over the last week, 10 days, and he's been really good. And you know, myself and yourself and Grizz ended up in a conversation, and I think Shawnee was it about Simicast and him, and Simicast has been really good. But Andrew Robertson is the best left back in the world for me. And people will point out different players, but I think overall the package he has, not only defensively going forward, his work rate, his commitment, but even you see him off the pitch, and you see him in training, and you see him, you know, doing bits of media with the club, and everything about him is just, he seems like it's such a down-to-earth guy that just is really, really fucking good at what he does. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. And, you know, you will get people saying, oh, they've signed another contract and they're doing this once a week, and they're only doing that because we're not signing anybody. I don't know how anyone can get a negative thought in their mind when they read online that Andy Robertson signed a new 5-year deal at Liverpool. I don't know how anyone can function with, oh, he signed your only reaction should be absolutely brilliant, because you've another 5 years of Andy Robertson. Nothing about anybody else, signings, anything. Andy Robertson is committed his future to Liverpool for another 5 years, and it's absolutely brilliant, because I just think he's so good. He suits us so well, and I'd hate to see him being, in a year's time we're going, he's only a year left and what's happening. It just shows how much the club is committed to him, and him and others how committed they are to the club and what they're trying to do and stuff like that. So it's absolutely brilliant. There's no other word for it.
It definitely is, and I know sometimes, you get some players who just play to it sometimes, to get the fans on side and just, say what they want to say. But it's not inside information, but I definitely know, like through obviously, just because I'm Scottish doesn't mean I know Andrew Robertson, but I know people who know him, and I definitely know that it feels like home to him there. And I think you saw the picture earlier. It was like him. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Gav. He's got his arms crossed, and it says, I've actually never seen this one before, but it's in the stadium, I think, or in the training centre, and it's the is it made by Liverpool? If the comments know, and it's like I can't remember, but it's like a phrase. It's a bit like that Royal Navy one, I wasn't born in like I was born in the Royal Navy. It's like that actually, and it's a picture of him, and I thought it was so fitting because obviously there's a lot of similarities people might say with Scottish players and playing at Liverpool, but there's also been players who've went there before Robertson and it just didn't work out at all. With maybe when it was hyped to. So I was just so delighted for him, and I knew that would work out for some reason. I obviously being Scottish, I'd watched them a lot for the Scotland national team, Dundee United and Hull, and I just felt Liverpool were so, for you talk about getting like players like Moreno, they were so focused on, right, let's get a player who looks good in attack, but maybe isn't the full package. And then obviously the analysts at Liverpool looked at Robbo, and it's been a great fit ever since. And see that we're talking about Tsimikas now, Gav, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing because I genuinely believe Andy Robertson will be watching Tsimikas with that assist, and he'll want that'll even make him even to go, if he can go in a further level, or even get back to that crazy consistency he had with 8s and 9s out of 10 every game. And I feel like it's actually very good for the team. It's not a kind of spiteful thing. I just think Robo will look at that and he'll raise his levels, I feel anyway.
Well, that's what a squad game's all about.
Absolutely.
It's like even when you see like goalkeepers, they're always supporting each other. But you see in this squad, they win a game at Anfield and the subs are on the pitch and they're congratulating players, and that's what a squad is, and that's how you build a mentality to be the best. Like Andy Robertson isn't going to look at Tsimikas and have any bad feelings towards him. He's not going to want him to get injured and stuff like that, but he's going to make sure that he pushes himself to say to Jurgen Klopp, he's really good, by the way, but I'm the left back at this club. And you can see in the confidence in him. He done a little bit of a media thing. It was an interview. I read it, or I watched it today. It was a clip, and he was saying about trying to get back for the Burnley game, and he wasn't sure if he could, and people were saying he could, and some went and weren't. But the authority he speaks with, he says, look, it was a bit unrealistic, but I'm ready to go. Let's go on Saturday. I'm ready to play. And it's basically, I'm back and I'm playing on Saturday, the sort of way. And it's great to have, people talk about our depth and stuff like that. And left back's been an issue for years for me at Liverpool. We've had left backs that have been good and overrated, in my opinion, but when you see what Robertson does in a footballing sense, a leadership sense, spirit, never gives up, and he feels it. You could see him last season when they were in poor form. He feels it. You can see it on his face. Yeah. It's etched on his face when they're not doing well. And then you have Tsimikas there, and you know what? This is where people that are calling for depth probably have a little bit of a point, because if you want to go deep in a league and a Champions League games, you turn around and you go, do you know what? Robbo isn't travelling to Russia this week. I'm bringing Tsimikas. Robbo's ready for the weekend. We've a big game, or we've a league game, and we've a big Champions League game during the week. I'll play Tsimikas the weekend, or I'll play Robbo for 60 and bring him on for 30, and that's where the depth comes from, and that's where people kind of have a point. But overall, Conroy, you look at the players that have signed now, new deals, and they're not signing year extensions. They're signing proper extension. It's not like, oh, we had him for 2 and now we have him for 3. They're all there for 5. Virgil signed for 4. But he's 30 odd years of age. I think Fabinho signed for 4 or 5. It's proper extension.
Fabinho's always younger than you think as well. Fabinho looks so much older than he is.
I'd say he's about 27, is he?
I think it's like that. I remember being shocked. I think it was a couple of years ago at his age. He is actually, I always thought he was older than he is. In the comments, they'll know. But yeah, he's younger as well. And for me, I know you said it before, Gav, he's one of the best CDMs, probably the best in the world. He's passing range and top in his defensive ability. But just a quick one, Gav. We're getting into the transfers now. This is the last thing I want, because I sent you this tweet. And it was about Andrew Robertson. And it was since 2019, I think it was, the most assists in the Premier League, and in the 5 it was forgive me, I forgot one of them, but De Bruyne was number 1, of course, outstanding player. And it was, I think, then it was Trent, Robertson, then Salah, and I think Robertson had 30. And it's just like, to put that into perspective, it's just to add to this comment here, Robbo's well on his way to becoming a Liverpool legend, and that's up for a debate. But I've got to be honest, Gav, he's pulling numbers. Andrew Robertson, I think he's got 39 Premier League assists, which is more than Ashley Cole already. I mean, surely he's already close to being up there as a Premier League legend. Maybe I'm pushing the boat out, but having won in a Champions League, a Premier League, being pivotal, being in UEFA Team of the Year, being the Premier League Team of the Year twice, I think you might have already crossed that barrier. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, or do you think he has to achieve a bit more?
He probably does have to achieve a bit more. He has a league title and he's a Champions League, but his stats are unbelievable. If I'll put it this way, if he was at Crystal Palace and didn't have 39 but he 20, he'd be being snapped up. They'd be paying masses of money for him. You know what I mean? When you see him at Liverpool, 39, is that what you said?
Yeah, so it's 35 for Liverpool, and he had 4 for Hull. He played 2 seasons, so I think he got 2 in one, and then 2 in the next season. He played for Hull in the Premier League. So I think it's 39. Yeah, so he's got more than Ashley Cole. Now, don't get me wrong, Ashley Cole's right up there as left backs in the Premier League, like outstanding. But that puts into perspective when you think about Ashley Cole's career, and he's already overtaken that. I think the biggest fullback, Gav, not to go on you with stats, but I always found this interesting. I don't know if it's the fullback, but the most left back is Leighton Baines with 53 assists, and Andrew Robertson's already at 39. Yeah, that's quite staggering, to be honest.
Yeah, and the thing with Leighton Baines was he took every Everton corner. He
free kicks, as well.
Free kicks, left, right. He was all over them, and Robertson does a bit as well for Liverpool. Like, so that's not knocking Leighton Baines. Leighton Baines was a fantastic left back. And people will say, "Oh, he was in Everton." Don't say that. He was.
No, some free kick taker though, Gavin.
He was a brilliant.
He was in one game. It was ridiculous.
He was a brilliant left back. He was an absolutely brilliant left back, and United tried to sign him about 4 times. That's how good he was. And United in that era when they were coming for you. It was, the chances are you were really, really good. Fabinho's 27 there, I can see. Yeah, he's 4 years. He's gone. He's another 5 years left now. He'd go down as a Liverpool legend. Yeah, every player that was in that team that won the league title will go down as a legend in some way. Simple as that. There's been so many really, really good players, great players that played for Liverpool and didn't win that league title, and the argument will be, well, the team wasn't good enough, and this player played with that player, and it wasn't really. Look, all these players came together and made it happen, and
on the back of each other as well, Gav. Champions League, again, a Premier League.
just relentless stuff. And on Andy Robertson, he'll go down as a Liverpool legend for me. He should go down as one of the best left backs in Premier League history for me. And I think if we're arguing that now, I don't think we'll argue it in 3-4 years' time. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I think he'll go from strength to strength. I think the competition he has there now, I think, is good for him, like you said, because competition's always good. It's good at it can be bad at times if a player hasn't got the mentality. If a player's comfortable where he is and you bring in competition and he kind of goes, fuck that, I'm off somewhere else. But you're not going to get that with Andy Robertson. And you're not going to get it with most players in Liverpool squad. They want competition. They want to show how good they are. They have a single-mindedness, even though they're part of a really tight-knit squad. So, look, me and you will talk about this in 3 or 4 years' time, and Andy Robertson will most definitely go down as one of the best left-backs in Premier League history from me.
Yeah, and sorry I went on a bit of that, and sorry to comments, but we just had to mention it. But the last thing, Gav, just because I know Kieran B had said to speak about Robbo's background. Kieran, if I have time at the end of the show, I'll do a quick recap of that, because I know Gav wants to get on with the transfers. Just the last thing on Robbo. See, when we went to, do you remember the friendlies in Murrayfield?
Yeah.
I think it was after we won the Champions League.
Napoli.
If I'm wrong. Napoli 3-0 got absolutely battered. We looked off the pace, and to be fair, Napoli were spinning diags like it was nothing. By the way, I'm not joking. Like the passing was ridiculous. See, because a pre-season friendly, they were just going for it. It was a lesson in diagonal passes. But anyway, after that game, they finished. A lot of fans left, but there's quite a lot who stayed on the side of where the players were going off for Robertson, like with the kind of Braveheart flags. Andy Robertson, now I'm not exaggerating, because I sat and watched it. I was up higher seat. He must have spent about 30 to 40 minutes just going into that crowd bit and signing autographs for about 30 to maybe 45 minutes. So if that doesn't say the character of the guy, I don't know what will. I'll get Kieran B. I'll talk more about that later, about Robbo's background, about he used to work at the National Stadium. If we've got time at the end, but thanks for that, Gav. Grizz will be laughing because he called that one spot on, because I knew I'd bring it up.
Because he hates Andy Robertson.
He honestly hates him.
He likes Simicast now.
No, I know, I'm only joking, but I know he's only kidding. But yeah, just a great point. But Gav, first one I wanted to chat about then for the transfers is probably the one that's went the most quiet. And Graham Potter at the weekend, when he got asked about it, said he's quite happy, and that's Bissouma. I can't get my head around why not even Liverpool, why City or United, no one's going in for him. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Gavin. What do you think is actually, if there's anything happening behind the scenes there, or is that it? Do you think it's just going to filter out now?
I was convinced he was going to Arsenal. Convinced. I thought he was linked before the Euro started.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And it was literally coming out that Bissouma was an Arsenal fan. The original story for me was Liverpool and Arsenal had made inquiries on Yves Bissouma. And it kind of came out multiple times that, Liverpool don't think they can do a deal because he's an Arsenal fan and he wants to go to Arsenal. And I'm looking at the Arsenal squad and I'm thinking to myself, he's made for Arsenal. He'll get more chances at Arsenal than he probably would at Liverpool. I'm not saying he couldn't go in and play in Liverpool's foresight. I'm not saying that for a minute. But I thought he looks nailed on for Arsenal, right?
100%, Gav. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot about it, right? I forgot about it.
Did that? I thought it was done. Forgot about it. See you later.
And you know what I thought? Like, I'm being honest with you. He could have signed for Arsenal and I wouldn't have known about it, because I'm terrible at following these things up, right? Unless I'm researching for a show. And Arsenal were signing all these players, and I was like, where's this Bissouma fella gone? And I was looking, going, he signed this fella Lankanga or whatever I think was his name.
Lakonga from is it Anderlecht, I think. I might be wrong, but yeah, he actually is quite a good player, to be fair.
Yeah, and they're signing these couple of players, and then the goalkeeper stuff and whatever, and we might get on to Arsenal later. But I'm waiting for this Bissouma thing to happen, and then I see Arsenal have signed Ben White. I said, hold on, what's going on here? Like, have they gone to? I think they've gone to get Bissouma and ended up with Ben White. And then
that Del Boy deal when they went.
Yeah, but then I thought to myself, maybe Bissouma won't happen. They've got 50 million in for Ben White, but maybe Brighton reinvest that and stuff like that. But no offense to Brighton, but if Yves Bissouma wants to go, I think he will go. And the money be right. And Brighton, I don't think Brighton are a sort of team that will turn down 40, 50, 60 million for this player who seems really, really highly rated. I've seen him play, honestly, 4 or 5 times, right? And last week we were talking about it, and I thought to myself, hold on, let's have a think about this, because if he's so heavily linked with Arsenal, who looked like they clearly wanted him, have Arsenal been priced out with that deal? That's what I thought. Because if Arsenal really wanted them and it didn't happen, have they been priced out? Or was there anything in it? But it's gone so quiet on it that made me think that Liverpool were actually in for him in a strange way, that Liverpool are just holding tight, and this could be a deal that's in the pipeline for Liverpool, because Liverpool are obviously waiting to get rid of 1 or 2 players. And Liverpool have got rid of one, and they're hoping to get rid of another, I think. But I don't think that other one will live, because he doesn't want to. But Yves Bissouma just sits there, and he was one of the first major stories to come out in the summer. Literally, it was the first one to come out was Yves Bissouma, Brighton. And from people I've talked to, Conroy, they rave about him. Like, dominant, quick, good on the ball.
I do like him.
Technically good.
G10's a big shout, saying he thinks makes every team in the league. I don't know if I agree with that, mate, but I've got to be honest. I feel like he is the type of player that if you talk about Robertson's mentality, I think Bissouma would walk in, Gav, to Anfield and in his head believe he can get in that starting lineup.
Yeah. But like, it could be a strange 7-8 days now. No, 7 days now, isn't it? It could be a strange 7 days now before the window closes. And if Yves Bissouma goes somewhere, I think it might be something that's been done a long time. Because I find it very strange that Arsenal, who are crying out for a player like that, haven't made that signing. Now, they're either being priced out or they're being told all this stuff, he's an Arsenal fan, is bullshit, he doesn't want to play for you because they're terrible. And he wants to go somewhere else, i.e. Liverpool or wherever else. But it's a very strange one, Conroy. I don't know if you move. Some people are saying in the chat, Brighton aren't in any rush to sell. But it doesn't matter if Brighton are in rush to sell. If Yves Bissouma gets a sniff of Liverpool, City, United, he's going to take it. He's going to take it.
Absolutely, Gav. See, the one thing I'd say is, see, because he played him at the weekend, I'm not saying you wouldn't have something in place and play him, but see, the thing with Bissouma is I know I'll go on a bit and sometimes in the day trippers about how much I like Potter, but I do think he's created a good atmosphere. Like, I don't think there's any bad apples, if you know what I mean, in that team. I do think it's like so I don't think it's a desperate to leave, just throw the team under the bus. I do think they act accordingly in that team.
He's built a consistent squad, hasn't he? Where there's not chopping and changing to it, like.
And there is players in that team who maybe have had issues in the past. You talk about Mopai. I think he's like discipline problems in the past, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's been a few players. Graham Potter's a very good manager, and I think there's a good atmosphere there and a good environment. But I've got to be honest, Gav, at the start of the window, I think I heard it was like, now, you know what it's like, figures change, but I think they said it 25 to 30 million, and even 35. And I still at the time thought, that's an absolute bargain. He's still very young, Premier League proven, defensively very good in that kind of holding midfield. He can play in kind of various positions, but also to me, he can shoot as well. I've seen him, maybe he doesn't shoot all the time, but he has the ability to shoot from range, and passing's pretty reasonable as well. And if you're playing in a better team in general, Gav, you're going to have more time or ability to improve at certain parts of your game because you're not having to dictate it all the time. But for me, this is the strangest one, because I'm a bit like yourself, I'm not on Twitter all the time to check transfers, but I can't get my head around, if that's the price for him, why no one's went in. But it's a really strange one. You might be right. It might be a case of it's already been sorted. Maybe it's us. Maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the one, that player A that we've had and said, if we sell this player, you come. And that's maybe why Brighton have played him, because it's maybe not been confirmed yet that we're going to sell player A.
And not even us. It could be anyone, because you know how it works. Like, it's a domino effect. So, if you look at Aston Villa spend in the summer, and you knew when they were spending this money. I don't care how rich their owner is. Aston Villa spent 155 million quid when they come up from the Championship, and they were appalling. Right? They were appalling. I think they survived on the last day of the season.
It was the goal line technology mistake. That's how they survived.
They survived on the last day of the season away at West Ham, I think.
Yeah, because Grealish scored. They did.
And I think I put a bit of manners on them. And what I mean by that is that I don't think they would have went and splashed another 150 million without having, without looking at the net spent that they were going to do. All right. So you knew that Grealish was going. It was just a case of how much and when. And the Euros, of course, would have delayed that. But Villa knew when they're signing Leon Bailey and they're signing Danny Ings and whoever else.
Buendia, I think.
Buendia was the first one, I think, in the door.
45. That's a big signing as well.
He was the first in the door in an attacking sense, I think. But you knew. But when you look at this one with Bissouma, you start to wonder, like, what are Brighton literally just turning around and going, listen, we want to get player A in before he goes, and then Liverpool say if you take Liverpool as an example, Liverpool want to get rid of a player A before he comes in. So you're kind of waiting on loads of things to fall into place. And it could be another club, it mightn't be Liverpool, it could be another club. But all these things do have a knock-on effect, because clubs don't want to show their cards to other clubs that they're selling a player. Don't tell a club you're getting 50 million quid in the door, because they'll hang you for whatever you're looking for. So it's one of those. It's a strange one. I think that if he hadn't been linked away, I wouldn't have given him a second thought. But the fact that he was so strongly linked to leave Brighton and go to Arsenal or Liverpool with the two names, the fact that there's nothing being said now makes me think that if you see something happen at Brighton, right, in a midfield sense, or even an attacking sense, wherever it might be, I think then you might see Bissouma move. I think you will, because football moves fast, and Liverpool, United, even Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, whoever it might be, might want Yves Bissouma now. But in 12 months' time, they could have solved their problem, and they don't want Yves Bissouma. and now he's looking to go to a club and they don't say, I don't have room for you. You know what, I've spent my money. So it's a bit of a weird one. We'll see how it goes, but I'm not for 1 minute saying Liverpool will sign him. I'm just trying to use Liverpool as an example. But I agree with you. It's very strange for it to be so heavy on Link and then literally disappear.
Yeah.
It's
because
so
all
weird.
I could find before the stream, Gav, was just Potter's comments on it, just to say he's happy. And I've got to be honest, like we're all Liverpool, like we're not all Liverpool fans in the chat, but there's maybe a lot of Liverpool fans in the shows you're on, the Daytrippers, Coppish, all that. But the one I can't understand is we know the FSG model. To me, Bissouma fits that model more than any other signing, especially since we need a central midfielder.
Would he go to the African nations? Is he?
The comments, I feel like that's maybe been brought up before in one of the shows.
And somebody and a few people have said they've signed his replacement already, or Mwepu for a club record fee, says it's finished. Yeah, I've seen that, and that's what strengthened the argument for him leaving. But now we're sitting here, this guy is signed early in the summer, and he's not gone anywhere. Now it could be a case Brighton turned around and went, no, we've sold Ben White, 50 million in, we're going to put 50 million out, and whatever it might be, and we're happy, and we feel like we can adjust and improve on that, and we move on and we look at it again next year. But if Potter's just turned around and said he's happy, that's not enough for me from Graham Potter. Graham Potter should turn around and go, he's not going anywhere, So we'll have to wait and see. That's it. Me and you are just starting Chinese whispers.
Yeah. No, John. No, John says he's going to African Cup of Nations. It went out of my head. Good point, John. I forgot about that. And Dan Bailey, shout out Dan for the comment, says not with the English tax, Conroy. Maybe, mate, but I still feel like I'm maybe just being a bit too optimistic about different teams. But I do feel like Brighton aren't the worst to deal with. I feel like it is carried out in a reasonable way. If you hit the price they want, that deal could be done. And I feel like when I'm hearing 50 to 60 grand a week for Saul, Bissouma seems like a better deal to me. But each to their own with that. But what about Gav regarding? Just Daz had a good comment regarding this. I just wanted to get. I've missed it. Thanks for everyone in the comments. It's been superb.
How many people are watching?
We're at 89 people, which is a bit staggering for me. I can't believe that. Like the community is amazing, but thanks for everyone for watching tonight. It really is superb. But Daz was asking, could it be a case that we sell Nat to Brighton and get Bissouma as part of the deal? Now, that's not a bad shout by Daz. I've not seen rumours linked to that, but to me, I have seen Brighton linked with Phillips, and that would that not help both parties? Do you think that that's something could happen?
The Phillips one is interesting because he does so well last season, and you're thinking, like, I genuinely thought he might keep him as fifth choice, centre back at Liverpool.
Still might, Gav. He still might.
Yeah, he may do because just a bit of an insurance policy, I suppose, because you have an injury prone Matip. Konate is new to the league. I've said this loads of times. Van Dijk, Gomez coming back from 10 months out, a season out, more or less, and you might keep him as a fifth choice, but it doesn't look like he's going to be. I think we're going to go with the four we have, and if we need to break glass on Fabinho again, we will. That's just the way it is. Although you do have Reece Williams there, that could end up being your fifth choice, and Kabak, of course, didn't stay at the club. And it's a bit of a strange one, but the feeling you get is that Nat Phillips, after tasting what he tasted with Liverpool, I think he's shown to himself more than anyone else, that he can cut it in the Premier League as a centre-back. And, he was away at Stuttgart's second team, and he came back and on loan, and, he's probably come back and went, hold on, I've played 10, 15, whatever it was last season in a struggling Liverpool side because of injuries, and I done all right. He didn't do himself any harm whatsoever.
It looks like he improved every week. He seems like
learning
a confidence player. Definitely, he needs games.
He looks like he learned on the job, and he couldn't have got a steeper learning curve than Liverpool going through the shit, and he had to be on at centre back, and he got there, and he helped Liverpool get third place in the league. But if I'm not Phillips, I'm looking going, that was brilliant. I want more of it. As a professional footballer, you always want more. We've just spoken about Tsimikas and Robertson and the levels you want to get to and stay at and push yourself on. Nat Phillips was probably weighing it up, going, I can be fifth choice here and probably never play, or I could go and play for a Brighton or a Southampton or wherever.
And a free at Brighton as well, if it is Brighton, and a free, which is quite good for him, I think, as well, to allow him to develop his passing side whilst, because that's the way they play, with a bit of structure around them.
If he performs, he probably plays 30 games, and makes a very good career for himself. So it's probably Nat Phillips weighing it up more than anybody else, because it's hard to leave Liverpool. Regardless of what rank you are within the squad, it's hard to leave, because, no offence, the only way is down when you leave Liverpool. And I don't mean that in the sense that you can't go down and be really, really good at what you do and maybe come back and end up signing for a top 4 club again because you've been ridiculously good for Brighton. There could be something in it with regards to Bissouma, but again, I'm not too sure, because if Nat Phillips hasn't made a decision, he's leaving it very late. And if he has made a decision and nothing's happened and no bids have come in or Brighton haven't come in, they're kind of walking a tightrope with regards to trying to get Nat Phillips in and get Bissouma out in the opposite direction. But you never know. It is a link that's there, but I think it's very rare you see a player leaving to go to one club and then another transfer is done the other way. It's one of those where
a case of 2 separate deals, but it's done maybe at the same time.
Around the same time.
Yeah, possibly. Just, because it'd be
a little bit, I suppose, like Jota and Keanu Hoover, something along that.
Yeah, there's a good relationship there. And that probably does build for the future, because I've got to be honest, Gav, I actually enjoy watching Brighton. I think I watched them again at the weekend. Like, genuinely, that's not a bad team to keep in touch with, because they find good players as well for certain systems that just superb. And even look at Lamptey. The Lamptey getting on him loan from Chelsea, they identifying that he could perform. There's lots, but just to shout out Dan Bailey saying Brighton playing Duffy, who actually scored.
Yeah,
it just shows you if you play in a free,
and he's awful.
Some centre backs can play in a free. Some centre backs, when he came to Scotland, being from this perspective, he didn't do very well.
Awful,
and it just shows you that what certain systems works, because the year before that he did play some games for Brighton and he was reasonable. But the point of that with Dan Bailey saying Southampton and Brighton are the two. Southampton just sold Vestergaard to Leicester, and obviously Duffy's had to play because I think, is it Dan Burns injured as well? Then now he can play at centre back, or he was not in the squad at the weekend. So they are short in that area. So that's a great shout, Dan. And I feel like there's business to be done there, but it's going to be an interesting one. I've got to be honest, Gav. I think if Phillips goes, he goes. He's not a legend, but he's going to be a cult hero, because he got that team in the Champions League, and nobody can ever take that away from him. That picture, him and Reece Williams, that to me, that's iconic. Like it really is iconic, because we were horrendous at some points, and for him to be that crown in the defence and that dominance, and Burnley away at Turf Moor was like the icing on the cake, scoring the goal, or the assist at Old Trafford. I think someone in the Daytrippers mentioned that the other day. I think it was Ave, the miscue shot that Jota scored the back heel from. Yeah. To me, I actually can see why he would move now, because if he's maybe on good wages, but maybe just for a couple of years, but if he goes to Brighton or Southampton, he can get himself a 5-year deal. That is life changing when it comes to money, Gav, because that's I've been a proven Premier League player. And only a year ago, he was talking about doing a scholarship in America or going to America. So I mean, that's life changing circumstances. So all credit to him, and I'm always going to like Nat Phillips, because
I will as well.
People were ready to throw him under a bus after that Newcastle away game, and he had the mental strength to say, no, when he got his opportunity again, he came back in. And people are too extremists. People just say, oh, you're terrible if you have a bad game. It's not, there's never an in-between. I'm so ecstatic that he managed to get in and end that. And in my mind, that picture is going to be the most iconic picture. Liverpool finishing third with Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. And yeah, nothing against them, but just the fact that we're down to our bare bones and he still smashed it. So yeah. Shout out to Nat, whatever happens, mate.
And that's, you know what, if we end up fifth last season, people probably don't take a look at him and they go, oh geez, no, he was terrible when he was at Liverpool that season, and they never made the top 4. And people would just doubt him. I think that's where he has a decision to make, because he propelled himself to the point where Premier League clubs are going, he held his own there. He held his own there, So it's a bit of a tenuous link for me with the Phillips and Bissouma stuff. But listen, we'll have to wait and see. I'm like you. I'm still in shock that Yves Bissouma was being touted around, literally at the end of May, and we're still sitting here in the last week in August, and nothing has happened. And Graham Potter is telling you he's happy, which for me, I'm not too sure. Graham Potter should probably say a bit more if there's nothing happening. You know the way.
Probably. And to the fact that he played him, I do think, as we said, that's probably due to the environment they've got. That if he goes away the next day, he's still playing the game. Yeah, but I feel like there's not that. Oh, I might get injured. It's a very much. It seems to be a good environment because Dan Bailey was answering Jono's comments. Say a finisher's all they missed. I agree with that. We'll not talk about that too much, and I don't go on about expected goals. I'm not into that. But if you actually watch Brighton games last year,
are unbelievable.
You don't have to look at stats to know they genuinely. Man United at home when they lost 3-2. Remember the handball in the last minute.
Yeah,
the amount they hit the post 4 times in that game, or hit woodwork 4 times.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
Yeah, they're a top finisher away.
Yeah.
They're a top finisher at the moment away from having a really progressive young manager with a really solid, coherent, tightly knit squad that would easily be, mid-table. I would say somewhere between 8th and 12th every year. No problem.
Have you heard other people, like, I know we're getting a bit off a tangent, but I just want to ask your thoughts on this, Gav. Have you heard other players talking about playing Brighton? I think there's an interview with Aston Villa player. It might have been John McGinn, actually. And he said, Brighton are weird to play against because it's like they lull you in. They lull you in with the way they play, like let you get close. But because they're so good at popping it now and they know where to be, that's how they catch certain teams. And I'll have to look into it more. But what's your thoughts on Graham Potter? Do you believe sometimes because it doesn't face fit sometimes that Potter that's why he doesn't maybe get? I'm not saying he wants to leave, but he doesn't get touted for the bigger jobs.
If I'm Graham Potter, I don't really want to get touted for the bigger jobs. I think you want to see him do this season and probably next season and show how you can progress Brighton, and then see where it goes. Because like people would say, like Benitez won't last at Everton, so Potter might be the next one that they might look to bring in. But Potter might look in 12, 18 months' time and go, what have they got that we don't? We've a nice stadium. We've a really, really nice stadium. We've a good fan base. We fill the place every week. We've a good squad. I get back when I need to. He's in a good place at the moment, and sometimes I like when these managers sit where they are for a bit. Not an Eddie Howe job now. Eddie Howe is just ridiculous. But what I'm saying is, he's come in. I think he's 2 years in the job now. He's about 2 years in the job, and I'd love to see him after 4 years and really, a really solid base to say, Jesus, Graham Potter's done a great job there. Because we've seen in the past, I'm not putting him down, but we've seen in the past where managers come in and they're, geez, he's brilliant, isn't he? And a year later, he's not.
But did you not think Eddie Howe was actually a good example of staying? Because we all look at they got relegated, but he got them 5 seasons in the Premier League, and for 4 of them, they were beating bigger sides, playing expansive football. Yeah. So maybe Howe waited a little bit too long, but he still was there for 4 years. So,
yeah, he was, but he was there beforehand, wasn't he? And he went to Burnley and then didn't like it and went back, and I think he was there too long, and I think they fell into a rut.
Absolutely,
and you could see it progressively getting worse. That's not even a word. You can see it progressively getting worse as the time went on already. And the relegation for me was inevitable because the squad went stale, his ideas went stale. They always had this thing where they lose 6 in a row and then they might win 6 in a row. And they go on a great run and they'd be safe, and then they go on a bad run. And
I liked him, Gavlo, because he'd smash some teams. Like he'd stick by his principles.
I'm not saying I didn't like them, and I'm not saying they couldn't turn up, but you get worked out in the end, and nothing seemed to change with Eddie Howe. It seemed to be the same stuff all the time, and it's a bit like, I suppose, I think Leeds might struggle a little bit this season because people have watched them for a year now and went, right, that's what you have, kill. And we know Bielsa is stubborn in what he does, so he's not going to change it, and people can pick you off. And I think that's what happened with Bournemouth. Eventually, the luck ran out, and I think Eddie Howe was probably a season too many. And that sounds like a ridiculous, stupid thing to say. He went down, but you know what I mean. I think it just went on too long. Whereas Potter,
he's got a bit of time left, and
he's a bit of time. But there's progression there. But I think if he gets the 4 years and the 3rd and 4th year are fairly similar, I think you look at Potter, and Potter might say, do you know what? Year 3 was great. I haven't really improved in year 4. It may be a case of I've too much to do here to try turn a squad over. I might need to go somewhere with more resources and wherever it might be. So we'll see how it goes. But he's a coach, there's no doubt about it.
No, I think I was a big Bournemouth. I love seeing Bournemouth in it because I like coaches who play good football and just rip up the rule book. And I think Howe done that, to be honest. Before that, it was Blackpool, staying up for one season and getting relegated. Not staying up, getting relegated, but taken to the final day against United. Eddie Howe kept Bournemouth in the league for 5 years, and playing good football and battering some teams. Bear in mind, I know a lot of Chelsea fans like to say Bournemouth small stadium. Chelsea got beat 4 times in 5 seasons by Bournemouth. So that's all I'm saying. For a team who's got a tiny stadium, they seem to beat you a few times. That's why Chelsea fans don't like Bournemouth. So that's all I'm saying.
And I get where you're coming from. I just think managers themselves know that there's 2 ends of the scale. You can get a manager thrown from the likes of a Bournemouth into a top 6 job, and they can't even tread water. It's too early for them. Or you get managers that are at the likes of a Bournemouth and stay too long, and because they stay too long, it gets stale, and you see what happens. Whereas what I'm saying here with Potter is he seems to have progressed. Okay, and he hasn't gone looking for jobs, because I think he would have got a job if he'd have went looking. Even this summer, I think he would have got a job.
I'm surprised Spurs didn't look at him.
Yeah, well, I think he would have got a job, but I think the first 2 years he hasn't gone looking for a job, which I think is a good thing. But I think after year 3 and especially year 4, he'll compare them 2 seasons together and then go, you know what? The club probably need to change as much as I do. And then you'll probably see him go. And it's a good career path. He's young and he's learning and he's doing a good job. And if he gets a proper goal scorer in there, there'll be no issue this season.
Yeah, just on Kevin Ball's comment, I'm going to back Eddie Howe, believe me, because Eddie Howe, outstanding football he played. But Eddie Howe is overrated since what he's done since he left Bournemouth. But to be fair, he's not done in management. I think the one way Eddie Howe I'd say is he's very much a homebird, in the sense is that's where he stays, that's where he's been brought up, that's where his family's brought up. So there was links to the Celtic job. I know Laura Duffy's saying that. However, I feel like there was something to do. I'm not sure, but I think it was his coaching staff. He couldn't get all his coaching staff, so they weren't available. So he just left it. Or there'll be more that'll come out with that. But for me, with Eddie, it was a case of he's maybe quite specific in the sense of other managers will go all over the world, where he is. Yeah. Where the team he's supported and where he's been brought up, that's the club he's managed. For me, Howe's next job will be close to that area. So I think it'd be like a Southampton possibly, or maybe Palace. I know that's not close, but for me, I think even with all the Celtic speculation in the summer, just felt like it wasn't. For me, he really likes certain areas. I think he's a bit of a home bird, and I think that's maybe why you might find. I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Howe didn't do management for the next 4 years. To me, he seems very disciplined and stubborn in that way.
Yeah, and you know something? I don't know how the fuck we've gone to Eddie Howe, but we'll stay on it. But if it was me and I was Eddie Howe, I'd be saying to myself, do you know what? I got relegated last year. I'm taking a year or 2 out, and I'm going to travel, and I'm going to watch football, and I'm going to study football, and I'm going to take in, all the stadiums around the world, and I'm going to visit, whether it's Ajax or Barcelona or Madrid or Liverpool or United or wherever it might be, because you'd have contacts in the game that get him in there to watch Bayern Munich, whatever it might be. And I'm going to study him a bit more and open his mind a bit more, because Eddie Howe was a Bournemouth man through and through. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't know his football. I'm not saying he doesn't watch football. But you see players that are managers that like to just step out for 6 months a year and go off and just absolutely nearly re-educate themselves. Not re-educate themselves, but broaden ideas. Yeah, broaden their ideas and stuff like that. So it'd be an interesting one to see where he ends up. But I love
our chats, Gav. I don't know how it got there, mate, but I don't care. It's great. I like that though.
People in the chat will tell you if it's shit anyway, and then we move on.
Well, hopefully we're doing good. But on the transfers, mate, I think what we'll do is I've been trying to avoid the big, massive ones, but I'm just going to come out and say this one. I'm getting fed up of talking about it, or not talking about it. I'm getting fed up of seeing it all the time, and you're probably the same, mate, because I know the transfer stuff annoys you at times anyway. Mm-hmm. Kane, what's the thoughts on Kane? The rumours I've heard is, just like you said before, we had our chat about Daniel Levy, he's not going to budge. Like, know who this man is. Yep. Don't he's not going to budge. Yep. Do you think it'll happen? Because I've heard City are about 50 million out. I think they were looking at giving 100 million, and Tottenham are just like laughing at them. No, this is the price.
I think it does happen, but I think it only happens once Daniel Levy gets the number he's looking for, and he wrecks any sort of reputation that Harry Kane has at Tottenham Hotspur. And I genuinely
keep talking about Levy, but he will do it, mate. This is exactly
he will. He's listen. They're owned by a billionaire, right? Spurs, right? They have a brand new stadium. They have a good manager. They have a good squad, right? And Harry Kane, I've said this loads of times, Harry Kane has delayed this transfer, right? And he's being an arsehole about it. And I don't care what Gary Neville says that he done. Gary Neville done an interview, and he's not going to do an interview where Harry Kane will come out and say Harry Kane is this, that, and the other. He's called Harry Kane an angel, a model professional. He's not, right? Because Harry Kane, we turned up on time as planned. That's bullshit. All the other English players were back well before him, right? And he turned up and he didn't play against Manchester City, which is fine because he turned up late. Okay, he turned up late. That's why he didn't play against Manchester City. Harry Kane needs to come out and tell Tottenham, and he needs to tell the Tottenham supporters that he wants to join Manchester City. Simple as that. But he won't, because it's an ego thing. It's his reputation at the club, his legacy at the club will be affected by that. Harry Kane thinks in his mind that he can walk away from Tottenham Hotspur and sign for Manchester City for 100 million quid, and everyone's going to tap him on the back and say thanks for the memories. They're not. They're not going to. And if Harry Kane really wants to move, like he told Gary Neville, I think I want to win this now. If you really want to win that, okay, and you really want to do these things, go and tell Tottenham Hotspur you want to leave. And he won't. Because when he says he wants to leave, Tottenham will turn around and go, you want to leave? Okay, who wants to buy it? Manchester City, it's 150 million quid. Do you get me? So he won't give the cards to Spurs. But having said that, he won't be big enough to turn around and say, I want to leave, which he clearly does. He clearly does. This sort of City stuff and all this leaks coming out, City are preparing this and City are preparing that. Pep Guardiola is sitting in news conferences and press conferences talking about Harry Kane. He's asked a question about Harry Kane and he says, I'm sure there'll be loads of teams in for Harry Kane. No, there won't. Who will? Who has 150 million quid splashing around? There's only two of you. PSG, 3, PSG, Chelsea and Manchester City. Chelsea aren't doing it. They just signed Lukaku. PSG have just signed Messi. So there's only one left.
And Neville was trying to get United in the race for that on Monday Night Football. I saw that.
But the thing is, right, Neville wants to get him into that race, right? But it completely contradicts what Gary Neville has been talking about for the last 6 months, right? So basically he's saying, go and buy Harry Kane for 150 million. That'll bring their spend to nearly 300 million quid, right? He wants them to compete. But at the same time, he's going on about teams leaving for Super Leagues because he don't want competition. Trust me, you're spending 300 million quid. You don't really want competition. You want to be pulling away from everyone. You know what I mean? But Neville was talking out of his arse on Monday night. But that's
I enjoy Carragher and Neville's analysts. Like I really do. And analysts are really
sometimes
like Neville,
but
questionable things recently.
When they get too patriotic to their own side, you're not hearing what they really think. You know, they're defending their side. You know, and at the end of the day, I do think the Harry Kane thing will happen, but I think he's gone completely the wrong way around. And all this gentleman's agreement stuff is absolute madness. Sign in your contract. You know what I mean? Sign in your contract. It'd be like Levy turning around going, I had a gentleman's agreement with Harry Kane that if we didn't make the Champions League, he'd work for 10 grand a week. And what would Harry Kane say? No, he didn't. Well, it was a gentleman's agreement. No, that's not true. Well, my contract says I'm on 150, but it's a gentleman's agreement. You see, you can't go both ways. You know, Harry Kane has tried to manufacture a transfer here without making it look like he's manufactured a transfer. And that's basically what it is. And now Daniel Levy is saying, you can go, but you're 150 million quid.
But that's the thing. It's not like Levy's saying you can't go. So in his mind, I'm not sticking up for Daniel Levy, but he's gave the price. So that's the valuation. It's like Grealish is 100 million. That's what Aston Villa valued him at. It's that simple. I know it's a release clause, but even the chairman came out and says they didn't think anyone would pay that. So if someone paid that, that was reasonable in their sense that they can use that money with. So yeah, Gav, it's 100%. You think it will happen. I think it will happen as well. But for me, I think it's going to be pretty late on in the day, maybe the day before or on the day, which is
who are Spurs bringing in?
Crazy. Do you think it might be a case of maybe a few days to go that they've already got someone lined up? For me, I'd say Martinez, but Martinez might not want to.
Lautaro Martinez is linked, but the talk is that he'll sign a new deal at Inter. But why would Spurs put themselves in a situation that on Saturday evening, with 3 days to go in the window, they accept a bid for Harry Kane? Now, unless in the background, like you said, with Bissouma and others, that
I'm
they're
just
working on
assuming
something.
they might be doing that, but you're right, they might not be the case.
Yeah, but listen, as soon as Spurs are linked with a player or agree a deal with a player, or Vlahovic, like City Fisher there says there, you know Kane is gone. right? You know he's gone. They're not going to spend that money off their own under their own steam. It's just not going to happen. But Daniel Levy has played it brilliantly, because he's literally sitting there going, "That's the price," and the only way out of it is pay it or tell us you want to leave. You know. And even if you tell us you want,
articles about this, and you've summed up in 2 minutes.
But even if you tell us you want to leave, it's still 150 million quid. So the more this gets down, it's a case of how big is your ego about your legacy at this club. If it's that big, you're going to sit and keep your mouth shut and hope that they pay 150, right? Or you're going to swallow your pride and turn around and say, "I want out." Either way, I'm getting 150 million quid. You know what I mean? And it doesn't really matter, because if Harry Kane signs for Manchester City, Spurs fans will hate him. They'll hate him. And that's the way it is. That's the tribalism in football. But Harry Kane has sat there quietly. He should never have done that interview. Because he talks about gentlemen's agreements and then goes and does interviews like that with Gary Neville, where he says, "I think I should be allowed leave for this, and I want to win this, and I want to win that." Why didn't he come out and say, "Yeah, look, I'm at Spurs, I'm happy at Spurs," and generic stuff? And then
he came out to the fans, Gav, at the start, instead of doing an interview overlap and just saying, "Right, this is what I want to do." I'm not saying they'd all love him or all back him, but you might find that there'd be a split at least, Gav. It would not all be tarnished. It might not be tarnished to that level. It might just be they're annoyed, but he's been honest with us. And they've people in life, they got more respect for people if they're just honest with you.
Yeah. I think Jack Grealish went to Aston Villa and said, "Look, I know City you're interested. I'd really like to go there. He's going to get paid more money. Well, maybe not, because I think Villa were looking to give him mad money to stay. But he turned around and said, "Look, for footballing reason, I want to go there. They're one of the best teams in Europe. They're current Premier League champions. It's Pep Guardiola. I think I can progress both in domestic football, European football, international football. I can get trophies." And he went for that reason. And I think Grealish, Jono says Grealish had a release clause, and maybe it was me, but I would have thought Grealish wasn't out doing interviews telling people that he wanted to win this.
He's still training the day before. Signing autographs for Villa the day before.
And it was obviously something that was done months in advance, because you knew the way Villa were spending, like I said earlier. So
that's what the CEO said. Gav, seeing the Twitter thing that came out the day after, he explained that the Buendia, they'd already knew roughly. They'd been they basically, when Jack signed that contract, Grealish, it was a 100 million release clause, but the sense of was, if someone really, really wants him, because we really want to keep him, that's the number we'll accept. And they didn't think anyone would. And the fact that City have, that's fair enough. And then when they knew about the money before they signed Buendia, he announced that. It was like a Moneyball thing. He explained it like they knew they couldn't get one Jack Grealish, but a Leon Bailey, Danny Ings and Buendia might be able to cover the numbers, which I actually think is quite good management, to be honest, and transfer business, to be honest. I think that's the right way to do it.
But the thing is, you didn't hear anything about it.
Nothing.
You didn't hear interviews. You didn't have fucking Gary Neville or whoever on the TV saying, "I've interviewed Jack Grealish and he said this, that, and the other," and defending him right down to the ground. This is the same fella that will have a go at Paul Pogba, because Paul Pogba's agent says he wants to leave the club. You know what I'm saying? If Paul Pogba goes out tomorrow, right, and does an interview with Peter Crouch from BT Sports, right, and the interview comes out and Paul Pogba says, "I want to win trophies. I want to win the European Cup. I want to win trophies. I want to, not progress in the international football, because he's right at the top in the international football case. But I feel like I need to be somewhere that has more of a chance." Are you telling me now, if Peter Crouch come back and went, "You know what? He's a model professional. It was a great interview. I admired his honesty." Are you telling me Gary Neville would stand there and allow that?
No chance.
No, he didn't. Do you know what I'm saying? And do you know what? Gary Neville is doing that interview, and then he's telling you, "Oh, United should go and get Kane." Well, if he knows that much about him, why is he linking him to United? Because it's clear that Man City are the one that wants him. So it's very strange what's gone on, and I think Harry Kane is behind it all, manufacturing it, and it's backfired on him, because now his legacy is gone at Spurs anyway, I think, but it's going to really go, because I think it's going to come down to it might come down to a transfer request, and if a transfer request goes in, Kane's going to lose money, and he's going to lose face, and he's going to lose legacy, and it'll be the final nail in his coffin with regards to a Spurs legacy. That's what I think.
Just sounds like it's going to be messy now, Gav, to be honest. That's what it feels like. And the Grealish incident, as much as I know you feel like some Villa fans will not be happy with him, however, I do think Grealish conducted himself in a way that was, I thought it's maybe looked upon fairly in years to come. Like, they're not going to look at him and think he's an absolute, I was going to say another word, but absolute idiot. I mean, they're going to like throw him under the bus. So I feel like with A2 transfers and one actually going ahead, being so close together, it's not like you can say, "Oh, there's only one way to get this transfer done." There's ways. The
only bad slant on Grealish is that it's Man City. I think.
You said that. You said that. Yeah.
I think if United or Liverpool come in and wanted Jack Grealish, I think the stature of those clubs historically, and both modern day and historically in football, will be looked upon a lot kinder from Aston Villa fans, who are traditionally a big club in England, and even at the height of their success, would have looked at Liverpool and United and went, yeah, they're right up there with us. You know what I mean? That literally like a band of brothers at the top of football in the early 80s or whatever it might have been. And I think there would have been a bit more from Villa fans who are well educated in football and how a big club runs and how it acts and stuff like that, and history and tradition. I think it would have went down a lot more smoother. But I think the fact that it's Man City and it's just a case of these boys are rolling in and just rolling over us for 100 million buyout, I think that's where the fans might be. But on Villa's part and Jack Grealish's part, I think it was played out very, very amicably and very professionally.
No, absolutely. And I think we covered enough of the Kane there, Gavin, and the Kane transfer saga that keeps going on every day. I'm actually bored of looking at the stuff now. Don't know if you can tell my reaction on it. But Ali A, shout out Ali A, comment here about saying Adama and Vlahovic is linked to Spurs. Now, we'll maybe focus on Adama there because it's a nice wee segue into the other ones I wanted to discuss tonight, Gav. Traore, Spurs linked to reunite with Nuno at Tottenham. It's rumoured to be about 40 million. And I read an article before the stream, Gav, and it said, apparently, I don't know if this is correct, but this is what was reported, that Tottenham are trying to get a season-long loan. And Wolves were saying that that's only possible if they put an option to buy within the loan.
Okay, with an obligation to buy.
Obligation, sorry, not obligation to buy.
Rather than an option.
Because there's always an option to buy. If
well, you can do a straight loan and he goes back. You can do a loan with an option. Which you can turn down if you want, or you can do a loan or obligation. And,
it was obligation.
And you see, the thing is, like, I know where Ali A is going with this. Adama and Vlahovic linked to Spurs because he thinks that's where they think the Kane money is going, right? But the Adama rumour is a season long with obligation to buy for 40 million, says Chris Brack, and that to me is just, this is teams reacting to the COVID stuff. They're trying to push out when they start payments because not many teams go out and just give you the 40 million quid. They in a buyout clause, I think you have to. But for 40 million, they'd be turning around going, listen, we'll give you 8 million a year for the next 5 years, right? But a lot of teams are trying to kick that down the road for a year until they get themselves to get out, year of Premier League and money and TV money and European money and
money back in.
Yeah, they get all that back under them, and that's what's happening with loads of contracts at the moment and loads of transfers where are not loan or an obligation and stuff like that, because they really, when you see an obligation, they really want the player, but it's a financial thing that they're trying to do. You see an option, they're kind of going, we'll take him for a year, and you never see, we'll have an option and you never know, they're not too sure. Option always tells me they're not too sure. Obligation says we really want them, but we just want to kick that financial obligation down the road for the moment. Adama Traore, a lot of people rate him. I don't think he puts up enough numbers to warrant 40 million quid. I think he scored 3 times in the Premier League last season. I could be wrong. I think he probably had about, I'd be surprised if he hit double figures for assists and goals last season. I'll put it that way. I
think he had not the greatest season last year. I think the season before, when Jimenez was fully fit, that worked for him. Having that number 9 does suit his game. I do think there's a play. The Traore will go to a team, and maybe not last season, the season before, he was hitting good heights under Nuno, and I think Nuno does know how to get the best out of him. I do feel like he will sign for someone, and it will just work. However, I do agree, Gav, that 40 million. It's a strange one, isn't it? Like, we've got Jota for 40 million, and you've seen what he could do, but you also there was a lot of analysts, because someone in the chat said Jota, there's a lot of analysts on what Jota was good at and how it would suit us. Whereas I think Traore, it's like he's massive, so strong, rapid, can beat players for fun. End product's not great, but it seems to be, you can get it good. It was reasonable, not last season, the season before. So maybe it might work at Spurs. Maybe Nuno knows how to get the best out of him.
Or puts him as a wing back, and that opens his options up for Spurs. But Spurs, for me, you don't know what way to go with the striker. The Vlahovic stuff has gone from 30 million to fucking about 80 million.
Mate, honestly, see, because all the number 9s are gone, it's like 65 million now. Take a day off, mate.
And he was rumored to be gone to Atletico Madrid, and that's gone quiet. And City apparently are keeping an eye, because City will keep an option on that. Or keep their, they'll keep themselves in that one as long as the Harry Kane stuff doesn't work out. But like Harry Kane, the transfer could send the whole transfer window into a spin, because City hand over 150. Spurs then go out and sign someone, 2 players, and then Wolves have a bit of money, and then and it does. There's a knock-on effect all the time. But I don't know if it's a bit of a lazy link, Adama Traore, because he's linked to fucking every club. He's linked to Liverpool about every 6 weeks, and it's a bit of a lazy one where Nuno Espirito Santo is now at Spurs, and it's kind of, we kind of ran out of the options with linking them to Liverpool. Let's link up to Spurs now, that sort of way. I don't know whether Spurs need them. Spurs always seem to me to have a lot of kind of attacking players in their squad, and the hardest one for them to fill is usually that backup number 9, because Kane plays every game, even when he's not fit. He insists on playing, because that's the sort of personality he is.
Yeah, because even Vinicius, is it Vinicius? I forget. He signed last year. Even he couldn't, and he was actually, to be fair, he wasn't terrible or anything. But I think it's hard to criticise a backup striker at Tottenham, because other backup strikers actually get some game time. Whereas when Kane's playing, you don't get any. Do you?
That's it. Yeah. This is a guy that turned up half fit for the European Cup final, and took the place of Lucas Moura, who scored a hat-trick, I think, in the semi-final.
That was not a good decision. Moura, actually, there's certain decisions, because that's been happened a few times with Kane. They've put him in games where he's not been fit, and it's proved why he shouldn't have been starting. Yeah. But on the Adama thing as well, great point, Gav, because if you actually look at it, when Nuno was at Wolves, that's one of the reasons I think Matt Doherty might have a resurrection at Spurs, because as a right wing back, Nuno got... Matt Doherty's not a good right back, but as a right wing back, he was outstanding for 2 seasons in a row at Wolves. One of his high points, Man City, they were 2-0 down, came back 3-2. Unbelievable. He actually, I think he's played very well against Spurs a few times as well for Wolves at their new stadium. So for me, you've got Doherty. You've currently got I get mixed up if Tanganga played at right back. He might have not played at right back. Is
Aurier still there?
Aurier, but he might go away. But you might have Tanganga there, Aurier, Doherty. You've got Regular on the other side, and you've got Davis as well for cover. I know not Spurs fans love Davis, but he's an option there. Regulon's obviously quite a good left back as well. And then you look at the kind of the winger position where he played with Jimenez, Traore, either right wing or behind the striker. You've got Moura, Son, Bergwijn. I'm forgetting someone as well.
Oh, Brian Gill.
Brian Gill, who they just signed as well.
Yeah. I call him Brian Gill. I've refused.
Yeah, Brian Gill. Yeah, no, you've used the heel. I end up saying heel. Brian Heel. I'll just say Brian Gill. Sorry, Midnight Toker saying Tanganga plays right on the back three. Apologies, mate. That's it. So it'd be Aurier right now, but he might be staying as well. He might be leaving as well. So it's an interesting one. But to be honest, I feel like he wouldn't come and play a right wing back. So I agree with you, Gav. I feel like it's a strange link. It seems a lazy link.
Yeah, I think with the financial situation Spurs were in last season with regards to, because they had so many plans for that stadium, and it all hinged on, it does hinge on concerts and NFL and stuff like that, and it's set up. It's an unbelievable facility to have, where it's set up to literally be able to take stuff every week and be able to put something on in there. And to lose that was huge for Spurs. And I think when you look at their summer business so far, for me, I think they'd be, if they're selling Kane, they're looking to sell Kane, buy somebody in, and buy somebody in for probably half the price, if not even 40% of the price, and take that money and put it off what they lost last season, because they suffered more than most, I think, with the new stadium and everything else. So it's a weird one. The Vlahovic one, the money's just going to keep going up. But then again, it could turn around tomorrow and Vlahovic signed for someone for 45 million quid. The sort of way. You just keep putting that bigger number on it and it'll get more attention. But I'm surprised he's still where he is. But again, it just could be a load of teams just keeping their powder dry because they're waiting for one thing to kick, and when that kicks, everybody's then piles in. That sort of way.
It's good, Gav, but I think it's circumstantial why he's rated at this price, because other strikers are not available. The domino effect, but there is no way he's worth 67 million. He's not done enough to warrant that, in my opinion. Yet he's played very well. People say he scored 7 goals in a friendly. That's all good. He's performed. He's a good player. He's probably a very good player. But 60, 70 mil, to me, that's because of the circumstances that they're putting it that high. Because as you said, he was 30, 40 million at the start of the window. And now they're talking 70 million. I think you don't want to get caught in that type of business, because you might be spending a lot for someone who doesn't really prove his worth. But he could be good.
You never know, but there was talks last week or the week before maybe that they'd agreed a fee with Inter for Lautaro Martinez. I don't think that's true.
That would be some signing though.
It would be. And you know what? I think that was just thrown out there to see if you get some sort of reaction on the Harry Kane stuff. I think everything is angled towards getting information on Harry Kane.
Yeah,
but
domino effect.
As I said before, Harry Kane's played this awfully, and now he's going to have to either sit and hope, or he's going to have to open his mouth and ruin what he had, even more so than it's being ruined already. I think he's fucked at Spurs, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, completely. I agree with you there. I feel like that might be the case, but I do think it will get over the line. On that, Gav, you okay for time? I don't want to take you past.
Yeah, you walk away, brother.
Quick one. The next one we just wanted to discuss is, I'll make this the last agenda topic, and then there's one thing I want to ask you, because my mate mentioned this. We talk about Vlahovic, and it was about a striker I wanted to get your opinion on, because I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on it. Okay. So the last one, I'd say, can maybe make this quick, because it looks like I've heard differing rumours, Gav, but it looks like Saul is. I've heard rumours that it's imminent that he's going to United, and then I've heard other ones that it's not even close. So I've got to be honest, it's a bit of a contradiction. What's your insight in thinking Saul? Do you think he'll end up at United, or do you think he might actually not end up anywhere?
It's a strange one, because earlier on in the summer he was heavily linked with Liverpool. And it was a case of, I think he's a really, really good player. I don't think he's what United need. I think he suits Chelsea a bit more for what they need. Because when I looked at Chelsea the weekend, they played Jorginho, they played Kovacic.
And Kante was on the bench.
Kante was on the bench. I think they played Mount ahead of them, did he? And
yeah, Mount was actually really good.
I'm trying to think of who was the third fella in midfield for Chelsea the weekend. But I remember
it was just two, because it was like the 3-4-3, because of the back.
Correct.
So it was
correct.
like just Kovacic and Jorginho. Yeah,
and I think eventually he'll look to go to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. I think he will go back to the back four. And when I look at Chelsea, United need a dominant midfielder. They need what Matic was fucking 10 years ago. But I don't think Saul is that. I think Saul is one of these that plays off the left or right in a midfield three, possibly.
Yeah, more at 8, isn't he?
Yeah, he's more of an up and down, a bit more creative rather than a dominant player. So, but again, that's United's form. They buy stuff and they clearly haven't identified what they need. Now, that's not a knock on Sancho or Varane. I think Sancho's a really good sign, and I think Varane's overrated as a centre back, but that's just my personal opinion. Do
you still think Varane will do? I still think he's good enough to do well in the Premier League.
He's better than the other ones he has, because Boy can't get on the pitch, and Lindelof, I think his price has probably kept him there more than what he should have. But then again, is he any worse than Harry Maguire? I don't know, but that's none of my business. It's Manchester United.
They can't all have VVD, mate. Do you know what I mean? That's the diamond in the rough.
Yeah, and that's true. But I think when it comes to Saul, he was linked with us, heavily linked, and he'd fallen out with that lunatic Simeone, and it was a case of he's playing him left back, and and it's a case of they're running him out of here. But then he looked to me like especially when we are looking at the likes of a possible exit for likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain or Naby Keita, that this will be a perfect replacement. And then more come out about it that, first of all, Keita was going well in pre-season. Ox was doing quite well in pre-season, staying fit. And then the stuff coming out about him having an 8-year deal, and every year that money gets fucking increased, and he's on about £250,000 a week. And the minute I seen £250,000 a week, I went, not a chance. Not a fucking chance. Because we're literally walking up to Mo Salah at the minute going, listen, we're giving you 250 grand a week, but by the way, this fella's coming in, Saul Niguez, for 280. Like, it's not going to happen. If I was to put my money on it, I could go either way, because I think United would probably are up for doing something like that, despite not, for me, identifying what they absolutely really need. And Chelsea could absolutely do it, because Chelsea can do it, you know, sort of way. I think Chelsea are probably they could be a body light in midfield if they ever want to change what they're doing. You know what I mean? I know they've Kante, I know they've Kovacic, and I know they have Jorginho, but you probably need another one in there. I think that the rest of them are kind of more creative players, like Mason Mount and stuff like that. So I think the place to go for him was probably Chelsea, where he'd probably end up, whoever pays him the most.
The funny thing is, Gav, I would actually say, of the styles of football in the midfield, I'd say Liverpool's probably the one that he would fit the best in, as we play at 8 like that. Whereas the Chelsea thing was definitely another option at Chelsea, and I do agree that Chelsea's probably that would fit, because he's not like the other midfielders. Like, for example, Chelsea are going to take Billy Gilmour after a couple of years loan and replace Jorginho or Kovacic with Billy Gilmour. That's exactly because he's going to be the same style of player, metronome in midfield, take it, give it, play balls through, just dictate, and play a system to benefit from that player. However, you're right that Saul comes in and is maybe for certain games it's a different midfielder, because if you've always got the same type of player, it doesn't give you much depth in some games. So yeah, I completely agree. But actually, on paper, it would suit us perfectly.
It would. And listen, we're only going on numbers you've seen written in papers or printed online. We don't know the actual case with Saul Niguez and his contract, because you remember he was linked with a swap with Griezmann, right? And Griezmann was on 800 grand a week,
and you were like, nah, see you later.
And I knew Atletico weren't going to do that. But then I was thinking to myself, are they going to they have to get rid of Griezmann, but your man Saul's not going to turn around in less than 300 grand a week. You know what I mean? And they were so far over what they needed to spend, Barcelona, that they probably need to get rid of Griezmann and sign a fella on 100 grand a week to actually make this worth it. You know, the sort of way. So we don't know. It could be a case of, you know, he's not on that amount of money, or Liverpool could offer him Liverpool could be offering him 160, 170 grand a week, and that could be actually more than he's on Atletico. Mightn't be. I don't know.
There's 40 million on top of that as well, Gav. It's not like he's a free transfer.
No, he's not. He's not a free transfer. I think he does suit us. But I'm on record. I think Liverpool need a midfielder before the window shuts. They need an attacker before the window shuts, and that's not me. I have to keep saying this because people think as soon as you say that, you know, you're having a go. And I have a go when I feel I need to have a go. I don't, you know me. If I have a go at, I can have a go at anybody. FSG, Jurgen Klopp, the players, whatever. It's just opinion, you know. But I think I said on Twitter today, close the window. Liverpool's title.
I saw it.
Right. So, and people kind of went, but what about this and what about that? And I went, no, I think we can. I just don't think we can go on all fronts with what we have. You know, it takes a bit of luck with injuries, but that's the case for every team in the league. And when I look at it, Saul mightn't be the deal to be done, because we could be being priced out with wages. I don't think the fee will be a problem, but I think we could be priced out with wages. And if it's true, he's being touted around a lot of clubs to try to see who he can get. And the first two you probably go to will be United, because they're mad, and Chelsea, because they'd pony up the money if you needed to, you know, the sort of way. So it's one of those where we'll have to watch and see. And but if I was to bet on it, he won't be a Liverpool player by the end of the window.
No, I'd agree, mate. It's kind of similar to what we discussed earlier about Bissouma. If you ask me Saul or Bissouma, and I'm not, Saul's obviously done more in his career, but I'd go for Bissouma for the money, because it's not my money. I get that, but 250 grand to me upsets the apple cart a little bit. And as much as you think it won't, I think it will. People might disagree, but a guy walks in, and it's not like Messi's walking in, and it's not like, even you could probably argue like Mbappe, because you know what's there. He's a really good player, but there'd be 4 or 5 people in that team would say, I'm maybe high regarded in world football in the sense of in their position, and they're not getting that money. So I do feel like, see the Salah thing, no one in that team is going to even bother. Not even Virgil van Dijk is going to be like, because we understand what he does for the team. Whereas a guy just coming from another team like that, as I say, not being an Mbappe, I'd say Messi, but we're never going to get Messi, but not even getting an Mbappe, to get 250,000, you said, a week, not 250,000, sorry, not for me. I think that does upset the apple cart. So I'd actually be honest, I would rather we stayed away from that if that's the wages it is. And I know it's not my money, but I just feel like that's not how we operate, like it or lump it. But it's been successful to keep that kind of that solid environment in the squad. So
and just the last thing on him, like the talk is that the deal will be a year's loan, again with an obligation to buy. And when you go on loan, it would mean that Atletico will be covering some of his wages, you know. But even if they were to do that for a year, you're still looking at 250 grand a week a year later. Do you know what I mean? So it's a weird one. Hassan Mawar, maybe next summer, Jude Bellingham. God only knows. You know, like.
Did you mean to say that? No, it's not. That's not the Beatles, is it? God only knows, isn't the Beatles? That's Beach Boys, isn't it?
Yeah, but like seriously, it's. I'm sitting here since fucking May telling you we need 3 players and we've won. You know, in a sort of way, and again, like me and you are just like anybody else, unless you're employed by Liverpool Football Club to look at the transfers. We're only giving an opinion, and we're only giving what we think might happen or an inkling. And right, I always thought it'd be 3. And I still hope it'll be 2. And that's not, like I said, that's not me slagging off the squad and stuff like that, because I do believe we can win the title with the squad we have. But if we want to go heavy in the 2 big competitions, plus, you know, future-proof ourselves a little bit, I think now is the time to do it, because you're hearing a lot about Liverpool. Oh, they look at next summer as when we start to remold the squad. Everyone in fucking world football now we're trying to remold the squad. And you're walking into next summer and everyone's going, just knock 25-30% on top of whatever price we have, because Liverpool are in town and they're looking to remold the squad. So it's one of those things, like, you know, get Salah signed up, get Mane sorted, get Firmino sorted, whoever it might be, Henderson, get them all sorted and we see where we go. But the Saul one for me, I wouldn't be putting money on it if I was a betting man. I'll put it to you that way. You've muted yourself, Conroy.
Oh, no worries, mate. It's just that's Maui opening the door again. No, I'm only joking. She's actually asleep over there. I was going to bring her in, but she's asleep for now. But as the people say, there's reindeer outside. It's and the Daytrippers. If you've not heard, that's Maui, my cat, who's my channel's mascot. And if the Daytrippers mascot, if they want as well, because all you hear is the reindeers outside, the bells outside. But what it was is the best thing I heard yesterday, Gav, is when you were on that stream and you said, with Phil. Is it Phil who was the forum last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're having a good laugh, and you went, "Oh, I'm on Conroy's channel," and someone said Conroy and his cat. So I'm like, Maui is definitely more popular than me, and that's
that makes more sense than most of us.
Absolutely makes more sense than me. But she's got the kind of half eyes right now, so she just wants to go to sleep.
Yeah, just leave her alone.
Yeah, will do. But what I was going to say, Gav, is thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, mate. I was just going to say, problem. Is there anything else you wanted to chat transfer-wise?
I want to talk about the striker that you wanted to ask me about, that your mate was talking about.
Right, so this is shout out to It's Finners. He'll be listening in, and if he's not, he'll be rewatching it. Now, we've had a good debate the last couple of days, and I wanted to give this some airtime because he's put proper effort into it, and I actually watched this player for his debut for Roma on Sunday night. Roma-Fiorentina, it was a cracker of a game. Vlahovic was playing for Fiorentina. Now, I wanted to get he's obviously not going to come. He's just signed for Roma. But do you think Liverpool maybe should have looked into Tammy Abraham? Now, I'm going to just tell you mine straight away, as I feel like we need someone who's a presence in the air. And as he is a tall, very big guy, his aerial play, Chelsea fans will tell you it's not great. That's why I didn't think we'd go for him. I just wanted to get your opinion on that, because it's a bit of a controversial one, but I actually think he'll be quite good at Roma. And I just wanted to see what's your thoughts on Tammy?
That's a great question.
This is It's Finners, by the way. So it's Finners. He's in the chat. Okay. It's his question. It's not mine.
It's Finners. Thanks for this at 20 past 11 at night, making me think like this. I think it's a good move from. I think it's a good move from. I think he's at Chelsea. Is he at loan at Swansea? Does he loan out to Swansea? Loans out to Villa?
Swansea, yeah, because I think actually what happened, Gav, is Swansea in the Premier League. He played in the Premier League for Swansea, scored a few goals, not a lot of goals when they came up. Then I think
he went to Villa as well.
Villa in the Championship, and then he's got top goal scorer in the Championship, and then he came back to Chelsea.
He comes back well there under the transfer ban, and he does really well for them. He's a good striker. I don't know if he suit Liverpool. I think he's, I think he runs channels. He's strong. He's big. He's strong. I've never noticed his aerial ability. But it's
a lot of Chelsea fans are saying it's terrible, but it just for a big guy, he could be better in the air, like winning knockdowns, etc. But Finn said to me as well, the Sats Finner's buzzing it after we mentioned that. He was basically saying that the Italian league had said, I think that'll suit him, because obviously the pace of it'll give him a chance to work on his hold up play, and he looked very good on Sunday night, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and Roma paid quite a few quid from him. And
34 million, 36, something like that.
And Mourinho's there, isn't he? So he would have known him from his time, watching him in England. I presume he watched a lot of English football. You see, I've had this thing about Liverpool bringing in another forward, and if you're going to get Origi out, which I don't think we will, I think Origi's quite happy to sit where he is, and whatever happens. Unless you're going to tell him,
Grizz will be loving that. That's Grizz's favourite player.
Well, unless you're going to tell him you're not registering him and he's not going to play football, which I don't think Liverpool would.
No.
I don't think over Origi will go. Now, something might happen late in the window, but I did say if you're getting rid of an Origi, I'd love to bring in a player that was a bit of a physical presence to complement what we have there. But then I kind of changed my mind because, and I think and I've said it before on a couple of shows. I only said it last night, so anyone watching now that watched last night, it's not deja vu. But it's very difficult for Liverpool to sign a forward for me, and people will laugh at that and go, just fucking spend 70 million on Lautaro Martinez, and that's absolutely fine. But to find the balance for me of a player that can come in, and I don't think you can find a lot of players that can come in and oust any of those front three. Whether that's Jota or Firmino, whatever your preference. And I think it's hard to bring in a player that will come in of the understanding that, look, you'll get loads of games because Liverpool are successful and they'll have loads of games, but we're looking for you over the next year, 18 months to take the baton on from a Salah or a Mane or a Firmino, whoever's, because I don't think all three of them will be here in 18 months' time. No. And you know the sort of way, and it's hard to find that player. It's hard to find a player like Luis Diaz or Stephen O'Connor. Somebody else says Jonathan David, and it's one of those. But and I think it's a difficult one, and that's where I think they might just keep Origi. And I don't like that idea. But I think they might keep Origi and look to do something next summer in a bigger way. And that's not me kicking it down the road for FSG either. It's hard to talk about any of these things without covering all your bleeding angles, to be honest with you.
No. But I know what you're saying.
But on Tammy Abraham, I don't think he suits us. I don't think he has a standout attribute where you go, do you know what, he could come in and be, like you say, Jota can play across the front, Salah can go. For me, Tammy Abraham is a quintessential number 9. Big, strong, fast, gets goals. But has he got anything about him where you go, do you know what, that'd be an extra ingredient? And we might not play has he got any more ingredients to him that could add to what we already have?
And that move might be good for him, actually, because
playing in
Italy, I think it will be good for him. But I've got to be honest, I'm going to watch him a bit more because I was impressed with him at the weekend. And ironically, do you know who scored twice for Roma? Vertut, who used to play for Aston Villa. Remember they got relegated?
Oh, yeah.
With the French guy who came in and they were terrible. And he was in that team. And now he's like a very he's played in Italy a lot. He's quite a highly regarded player. It's just funny football, isn't it? You get players like that who just end up smashing for their teams. Exactly. But on the striker thing, Gav, I've got to be honest. I've said it before. I think we do need a number 9. But when I say that, it's not an Andy Carroll. I feel like last season or the season before, people do forget that Liverpool can't play well every game. Like it never really happens. We've had a few great seasons, but there is games where you can't play well. And Sir Alex Ferguson literally United had a lot of poor games, but they would win it because they pen teams back and they'd have that presence in the box. Now, see, when you game plan, you break and press and try to play through the lines, it doesn't work. You need to have that option that teams really need to fight for a win at Anfield, like properly fight. And I'm not saying we've not got a great atmosphere in a fortress. However, that's the missing ingredient for me for us to evolve and keep going. And I agree, it's hard.
That's where the Vlahovic stuff was interesting. Because when I spoke to people about Vlahovic, they went, no, look, he's really good feet. He can hold it up. He's faster than you think. He's a really good presence in the box.
He has got good feet. I was impressed.
Yeah, and he's a bit of vision about him. And that's where I think he'd suit more than Tammy Abraham. I'm not too sure on Tammy Abraham's vision, bringing players into play. He looks to me like he's someone that runs channels or runs beyond you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't suit us. I
don't think he suits us. I think Vlahovic, for me, and this is only on talking to people that have watched him a lot, because I don't even know if I've ever seen him play once. I think this is only speaking from people that's watched him quite a bit. And when I say quite a bit, it's probably 10 times, right? Which is probably not a huge sample size. But what they say to me is, Gav, look, he will complement what we have, but give us something extra.
That's the best way I could word it as well.
Exactly, and I wouldn't see Tammy Abraham complementing what we have and giving us something extra. I think that's probably the difference there.
Absolutely, and I feel like, to be honest, I do think Andre Silva was maybe an opportunity missed for the price he was. We spoke about Danny Ings previously. I'm not going to talk about that again, but Silva to me would have been similar. He could link up, play the way we play, but offer us something different that can allow us. It makes us unpredictable in certain games as well, because it's not. It doesn't mean you're lumping up. But as I've said to you before, Gav, we've got two of the best fullbacks in world football, but the only team who's not got a proper number 9. And I feel like, or Origi, who's not going to play, you just basically need to sell Origi, and then I'm not saying use the money from that, but just get someone else in. And they could be a vital ingredient going forward as well, because he's done it before with Lewandowski. He has had strikers there before, Klopp, so it's not like he can't do it.
Yeah, I think look, you never know it, but as I said, I think it is difficult in the forward department, because if you had 4 of them there and you thought 3 of them are brilliant and one of them he's okay, I think it's an easier signing to make, because the person coming into that 4 to make a 5 is saying he's not actually great. I'll make better of him, But when you're going into that quality and you're basically being asked to hang around for a year, 18 months before you really take on the baton, such a hard thing to convince people of, regardless of the fact that you're Liverpool. We've seen big players go to big clubs in a year in, they're going, I'm not waiting anymore, I'm out of here. The sort of way. So it's a weird one, it's a strange one, but as I said, save all your money up and just buy Haaland, because
I know
if you put Haaland into that side, forget it.
Do you know, the thing is, you're probably right, Gav. I think the 2 I would actually say, mate, is I'm not in the Mbappe project, because I just don't think it'll happen. That's why, obviously, he's an outstanding player.
I take Haaland over him.
And I actually, we've not got time to get into that. We'll talk about that another time, right? We'll talk about that another time, because I agree with you, but we'll get into the bones of that.
Yeah.
But Martinez is a shout. Like, people need to remember the age of Martinez. Like, if you talk about a player to link up for the future, he needs to come into that as well. And maybe in the next couple of weeks, Gav, we can get a wee video on that and chat about those 3, Mbappe, Haaland. And I do think Martinez, I've been very impressed when I've watched him. Gav, I'm not going to hold you too much, mate. It's just a last comment here, and then I'll let you go, because I know you want to relax. Was Rams, shout out to LRB Rams. He was asking about Dolberg, who starred for Denmark in the Euros. He plays for Nice currently, and I think you could get him at a reasonable price. I just wanted to get your take on that for Liverpool, and just if you've seen him, or if that's maybe something we could consider, because you could get him for a reasonable price.
I've seen a little bit of him. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm being honest with you. Hasn't been. He's at Nice now, but he was at
he was at
Ajax. Yeah. And he was highly rated, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was highly rated. Highly rated. And I don't know, maybe it's someone that a classic Klopp turns him around, because he's doing quite well, but somebody that he brings him to the next level.
It would be a presence, definitely a presence.
He is a presence, and there was another comment up there from Sammy Salah saying, before you guys finish, can you say one player in any position you would want us to sign in a personal level? And Coutinho's right. Raiola, dealing with Raiola is a fucking nightmare.
Listen,
let's do this some other time. Let's do this some other time when we go.
I will get that, because I'd love to have that chat with you, and maybe get someone who disagrees with that, because I'm just going to be supporting you with that argument for the full time. But we'll get that. But where was the comment? Was it just up there, Gav? I'll get it on the
Sammy
screen.
Salah, yeah. It's about 20 comments up there. He says, before you guys finish, can you say one player in any position you would want us to sign personally? He puts the message in at 11:25, if that helps. It's a great question. And
I'll go to here. Sorry.
I'm obsessed. I'm actually becoming a bit obsessed with the next proper forward signing we make, just to see what shape it's going to take, because it's definitely going to be a succession planning sort of thing. And it's Haaland all day.
I agree, mate. It keeps me up sometimes.
Yeah, it's Haaland all day. But I think Sammy's probably looking for someone in the next 7 days.
We'll just say, for both of us, we'll say Haaland is that one, and we'll say a realistic
absolutely,
one. Absolutely,
but bro, is to pick someone in the next 7 days in any position that I would like us to sign personally. I've heard so many good things about Bissouma, and I haven't seen enough of him. Because I don't pretend to watch loads of football and watch every fucking match on the TV. I don't. I'm too busy to.
Of course.
And I watch Liverpool and I obsess over Liverpool, and I do pick up bits and pieces and stuff like that, especially when it interests me, like Arsenal, because I'm obsessed with Arsenal at the minute. But one player. It's a great question. I've always had a Hossam Aouar in my mind all summer, and you think Bissouma was gone quiet. This fella's literally he's on a market stall somewhere.
Is he a footballer anymore?
No one's going near him. I've always had him on my mind.
Does it feel like Fakir to Aouar to you? Does it feel like maybe his entourage or the people around him, maybe not?
Or maybe people have watched him a bit and got more information on him in the last year, because it's been fairly not well known he'd be leaving Lyon, and something doesn't sit right with him. I did see somebody saying Arsenal being linked for him, and Spurs are being linked for him, but you can just name a team and put it beside Aouar and he's being linked with them. It's such a good question, Sammy. I'm being honest. I have to have a little think about it. Is there one person in your mind that you'd like to see us sign in the next 7 days?
Right. So realistic. We're realistic, aren't we?
Yeah. We're not Mbappe in here, yeah.
But the one I would say that is not out of question would be Martinez. But I'm not going to say that, because I just think the way FSG work. But that is the one that I think you change your model for, because he is a game changer for the next 7 years. He's someone you can, a bit like Haaland, you can actually rest assured on and evolve. He's happy to be part of it. And then when players, the front three, leave, he can do that. But we'll not say Martinez. I don't know, mate. I'm stuck, right? Because I really
I haven't.
All right,
I know who it is.
You go first.
Because I've heard so much about this guy, and he's no end product, he can't finish, blah 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 blah. It's Jeremy Doku.
You'd like fair enough.
Yeah, I think because he's very young. I've seen a bit of him. I like him. I like what he does. I like he's direct. He's quick. And listen, he's an absolute prototype of what Klopp could do. An absolute prototype. Like Sadio Mane was really good at Southampton before he came to Liverpool, but he missed chances.
Absolutely, mate.
He wasn't positioned.
He's hot and cold. He's hot and cold for Southampton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's one of the best finishers at the club now, Mane. And people will say, well, of course he is. He plays up front, but genuinely, I think he's. I
was surprised how consistent Mane was for Liverpool, because I'd watched him at Southampton, and to me, he gave me Balassi vibes, like could do something amazing, but then maybe I'm being unfair on Balassi because he got some really bad injuries, but he felt like he was going to be inconsistent and he'd do my head in. But
I watched him
4 years. He wasn't. He was very consistent.
I watched him. I remember watching him away, Southampton away at Chelsea. So you're going back to he signed Liverpool.
That the 3-1 game when was it Pella? Who played for Italy?
Yeah, it was pissing rain out.
Yeah,
I always remember it was pissing rain at Stamford Bridge, and I'm going to say it's the season of 15-16. He signs for Liverpool in the summer of 16, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so, because it's because it was his
Klopp turns up. Klopp turns up in October 15, and he signs, and 16. So I'm going to say it was the 15-16 season. and it's absolutely lashing it down at Stamford Bridge. And if I remember right, he's playing wide, and I think Chelsea, they might be 2-1 up, and he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's terrorising Chelsea, and then they threw him up front for the last 15 while they were holding on to the game, and he was so good, strong, quick. This Sadio Mane, I'm looking, going, who is this fella? You know what I mean? And I just look, and it wouldn't be a game I'd sit down and watch, but I just happened to be sitting here. I had a young daughter at the time. I still have her. She's not gone anywhere. But she would sit down she doesn't do it now, but she'd sit down and watch football with me. And I remember watching them going, do you know what? You know when someone stands out to you, and not just because he'd really good, just the way he was doing it and going up front and his attitude, his speed, his strength. And when he signed for Liverpool, I remember Southampton fans saying he's a bit of hit and miss. He does miss chances. He can be a bit petulant. He can be a bit this, that, and the other. And just when you see the progression of Sadio Mane to Liverpool now, it's unbelievable. And that's no small part down to Sadio Mane, because I think he's a brilliant human being. But it's down to Klopp as well. And I think Doku is literally like a Mark II of him. You know, he's strong, he's quick, he's direct. Okay, he might be a bit lazy in front of goal, he might be a bit erratic in front of goal, but he's a very, very young player. And I think half the stuff in terms of finishing is A, confidence in yourself, and B, confidence in the fact that your team are really good. It doesn't matter if you miss, you get another chance. And if you have half of that in your mind, that I'm playing a really good, so I'll get a chance in a minute anyway. If I miss this, I'll get another one. I think that's half the battle, because I watched it last season and I seen Salah, who's a good finisher, snatch at things, and instead of passing, he was shooting because he felt that was his only opportunity to score, because Liverpool were going through a tough period.
You're not going to create a lot of chances in the game, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I'll go, you know what? I'll go with Doku. And I know there's a guy in this chat, or he does be in air chat, and he might be in here tonight, but I think he's Belgian, and he can't stand Jeremy Doku.
Yeah, I'm more in that camp. Not that I can't stand him. I just think I still think Mane was more there than Doku is. But you know
but he was older.
He was older. I just think, you know how Mane had that move from Salzburg to Southampton. I think that was the right. I think there wasn't one in between that. I think that's right. And then
I'll go with Doku though, because I think it's an exciting signing. It's someone that comes in and complements and gets to get time. And in a year's time, you never know how far he could be down the road in taking on that mantle, I suppose.
No, absolutely. Great shout, Gav. I'm not going to keep you for too long. Just Musa Diaby, Sidney Fisher, thanks for the shout, mate. That's not a bad shout as well. I've watched him previously. I actually kind of...
Never heard of him.
Basically, similar to you talk about when we were looking at Mane before, he was at Southampton, he was a bit, hot and cold at times. I've watched Diaby at times and I thought his end product's been poor, but I think in the last year he's improved that. And as Sidney Fisher says, double digits last season, more ready than Doku. Probably would agree with that. Plays for Bayer Leverkusen, Gav. So see, when COVID, we were in lockdown and football came back in Germany first, I watched quite a lot of him. But I think he has got more consistent then. So that's maybe a good shout as well. For me, I'm going to just stupidly say it because it's not going to happen, because we'd be outpriced. I'd love a number 9 and Vlahovic. However, I just think we're going to hold off on a number 9, like you said, Gav, and wait for the right one. I feel like there's been too many options of left recently that we'd go for. So for me, I'm going to stick with a centre mid because I think we need it, and go for Bissouma. If you had to take a shout from me for a surprising one that realistically I think we could get that would add to our attack, people might disagree because of the performances of Harvey Elliott, but I have been impressed with Jared Bowen, to be honest. It's not going to happen, but I just think he's a very good player, and I think like that realistically could go through. Shout out to Antonio, by the way. What 2 goals he scored last night, outstanding, and I think an underrated footballer, to be honest. I think Antonio.
I've made calls. I've made calls on him as being bang average numerous times in the last 12 months, and every time I tell people he's terrible, he scores goals. No, fair play. Did he become West Ham's record Premier League scorer or something as well?
50 Premier League goals last night, mate. Was it 50, 51? 50. He scored 2. So he's
the record Premier League goal scorer. Yeah,
he's beat Paulo Di Canio. So fair play to the guy. He started it right back for West Ham, Gav. So
yeah, and in fairness to him, he's had a lot of injuries, and he's worked hard.
He's 31 as well. 31 as well. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, and he's got back. He's got back after a lot of persistent injuries, I suppose. So fair play to him.
I always like him because he's one of those players when Liverpool beat West Ham. He always seems to play well, but we win 4-1, but he scores, gets involved. So sometimes you can like a player's attitude. But listen, folks, thanks very much for the comments. Thanks very much for the response. And Gav, most as well, I'm going to say thank you for coming on. Really appreciate that show and the comments.
Can we do it again?
Absolutely. I think I've got the topic. We're going to do Haaland, Mbappe, and I'll work out a wee agenda for that.
Yeah.
But we'll get that sorted, and whenever you're free, because you and Callum Sanderson might be the two. Actually, you are both the two busiest men on YouTube, and you never stop. But at least you don't have to edit this tonight, Gav. That'll be.
No, I'm going to be honest now. I'm going to literally knock this off and knock on the TV and make a cup of tea and sit here going, "Jeez, I've nothing to do," which is not true.
Have you finished watching The Wire?
I finished it the other night, yeah. What a show.
I actually follow your Twitter quite a lot, Gav, because I'm thinking of rewatching Breaking Bad again, because I loved it.
Do you know what? I put out a tweet the other day about what to watch, and people come back with so much stuff, and I started watching Banshee. I watched one episode of that, so I'm into that. But there's so much there. Like I still have a season of Power to watch. I stopped watching Boardwalk Empire for no reason whatsoever, and it was brilliant. And the guy that plays
Stevie Graham, and
the lad that plays Omar in The Wire is in Boardwalk Empire, and it's I have that. I have Power. I have I think I will go back and watch Sopranos from start to finish, and Breaking Bad. But people have given me Banshee and loads. I literally. Have
you ever watched Ozark?
Yeah, I watched it all. Brilliant.
I love Ozark, to be honest. I watched Sopranos recently.
The blonde girl with the curly hair, and it was absolutely amazing. Isn't it?
Yeah, she won an award at Emmy for her performance. She's great, brilliant. But yeah, there's lots. I'm watching. I'm going to start watching Snowfall on BBC iPlayer. It's about the 1980s one, so that's another good one I've been told.
Few people have said they've never seen The Wire. Trust me, lads, go and watch it. It's outstanding.
I was like that with The Sopranos. Never got around to it, and I watched it, and I'm nearly finished. But it's like it probably changed the way TV programs are looked at.
You know what I mean? The best TV program ever made.
It created this kind of. It's hard to explain, but it's. I don't know if you've ever watched, like, there's that Michael Franceschi YouTube channel about He Was in the Mob, and it's like The Sopranos is meant to be up there as that's realistically what it's like. So it's outstanding. James Gandolfini, and the film's coming out, isn't it? The film.
Yeah, the film is about him as a kid. Yeah, and his son is playing him in it, isn't he?
Yeah, his son's playing him.
His real life son. Yeah. Yeah.
So outstanding. But folks, thanks for the comments. It's been a great night, and thanks again, Gav. So to everybody, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Cheers.